I think we're live.
Okay.
Hi. I can't believe we're doing this. But welcome to our home. We're glad you're here. We thought, what could be better than to have a little Google Hangout on a nice snowy day in Knoxville? So we're glad you're joining in and watching. We are going to have a fun time. We're going to do this for about a half hour. We've got a bunch of questions that people have submitted online. We're going to get through them. Some of them are very interesting, tricky, but we'll see what we can do.
They're intense. They're good. It's a good job.
Yeah, so we're just kind of having fun. Glad you're here with us, and if you want, you can still submit questions. We'll try to look at them. You can even text me. By the way, if you're seeing this live right now, will you text me just so we know that it's working?
So the thumbs up.
Yeah, give us a thumbs up so we know it's working. We see a few people are watching right now. But anyways, we're excited. We're going to get going here. So it's kind of 6:33 replacement, so we've got to have some announcements. So before we jump in, here's our Black Lab. Hi, buddy. One announcement is Washington applications are due this Sunday, so don't forget to turn those in if you're wanting to go on that trip. The dates are June 22nd through June 28th. And again, this Sunday that's due. And then Ignite, don't forget to sign up for Ignite. You can do that like right now on the website. You can go to Ignite at the top right-hand corner of the screen and click on that, and you can register for that. That is February 28th through March 2nd, and that's $55. So check it out. All right, so we're going to start diving in. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Here we go.
We're not perfect, by the way. I don't know if you wanted that. We have a really great marriage, but we're kind of going off of our own experiences and obviously have a big heart for this. So we're excited to just kind of share our hearts with you and answer all your questions. So, yeah.
And we just got our text from Zach Conant. Thank you, buddy.
Yes, awesome.
He's seeing us right now.
That's good. Hi, Zach.
All right. Oh, I'm getting more texts.
Out. Going down.
I think we're live. All right.
So if you're watching and you're like, who are these two people? I'm Jess. This is Derek. We've been married almost 10 years. We celebrate our 10-year anniversary this July, so that's really exciting. And so, yeah, we're just excited and pumped to be here, and we're excited to answer your questions. So.
Excellent. All right, so here we go.
Okay.
So again, some of these questions have like clear biblical answers, and so when that's the case, we're going to try to go for that answer, obviously. Some of these questions are very kind of gray area. They call for a lot of wisdom. It may not be a situation where something is a sin or not a sin. It's a little bit more complicated, so we'll do our best just kind of sort through that and give you all our wisdom. Again, we're not the end-all be-all. We're not perfect. We're just going to try to talk from our experience and hope that is helpful to you all. So without further ado, here we go. First question we got here is, what's the difference between courting and dating? All right, now this is kind of a technical question. And the question doesn't really ask for an opinion about which one, but as far as I understand, I remember reading Joshua Harris's book, I Kissed Dating Goodbye, years ago in college. And from that book, that's when I started hearing about kind of the difference between courting and dating. Dating, according to that book, was a little bit more nonchalant and maybe a little bit more reckless, according to Joshua Harris, where courting was a more formalized process. And he was suggesting, it involves parents, it involves already a higher level of commitment. And so Harris's recommendation was, hey, why not just hang out in groups of people? And don't do this whole dating thing, but try hanging out. And then if there was somebody you wanted to pursue, courting then would become a more formalized process. So a way to take out some of the maybe carelessness that is done in dating. So that's my understanding. Differences between dating and courting. Again, that's not offering an opinion on that. I'm just saying that's what I know of it. If you've heard those two terms, that's how they're sometimes used. Would you?
Anytime you use the word dating, in my opinion, that's like you can kind of give the person the question back, what do you mean by dating? Because that's sort of a relative term, I think, in our cultures. One person can mean dating by just being like, oh, we're just hanging out, we're just talking, and another person that can mean like a really serious, committed relationship. But I know that when you talk about courting, you really are kind of talking about a real serious commitment, like Derek said, with parents involved and things like that. So.
Excellent. All right, now here comes a little bit juicier one here. Jess, is cuddling bad?
Oh, well, it depends, right? Okay. It's okay in marriage, obviously. Cuddling is risky territory, I would say. That would be my first response if somebody came up to me and they just said, hey, is cuddling with my significant other who were not married, is that bad? Is it bad? I don't know, but is it risky? Is it sort of dangerous territory? Yes, I would say, because you're awakening in a physical sense things that can progress and that can lead to places and circumstances that you just don't want to be in. So it's like a side hug or holding hands. I mean that's going to be something that your conscience is there for a reason. That is something that God put in you, and you need to be very tender and aware of that. So if you feel like, yeah, this is not going where I want it to be, that's where you need to have the integrity to say, yeah, this is not good. So I hope that somewhat answered the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's excellent.
But we like to cuddle, so.
Yes. All right, that's good. Here's another one for me. Is it true you aren't supposed to pray with your boyfriend or girlfriend? Now, somebody actually told me this when I was in college, and it really took me back. But they made this comment. They said, hey, if you're struggling with just keeping boundaries, getting too close too soon, you don't need to be praying with your boyfriend or girlfriend. And I remember thinking, how can that be? Prayer is a good thing, right? I mean, why would you not pray with your significant other? But the person who gave me this bit of advice said, prayer is a very intimate thing. You share deep parts of your heart. You share things, moments of brokenness, things that are really weighing on you. And when you do that, guess what? You're just creating more intimacy between you and that other person. So if you're trying to keep a nice, clear boundary and being safe and careful with that, prayer, believe it or not, can actually make that more awkward. Now, obviously, you can, pray in a small group or over dinner, that kind of thing. But this one-on-one, let's get together and pray, that can actually be a bit of a pit sometimes,
Yeah.
believe it or not.
I mean, if you're out to eat and you want to pray over your meal, and you're keeping it at sort of a life level, you're probably not going to get into any problems there. However, especially if you're praying for deep things, if you're praying for your relationship, if you're praying for guidance specifically in your relationship, or just things that are just at a really heart deep level, that's something between you and God. That is something I know in a marriage. When Derek prays for me at that deep level, I am really ministered to, and that is something that is safe within our marriage. But I think when you don't have that safety of marriage, that's something for you to pour your heart out to God, to pour your heart out to a close friend who could pray over you and with you. You can agree to pray about your relationship and about these deep things separately. But the other thing, too, is that sometimes you get this, like, maybe you'll agree, like, we're going to pray together, and we happen to be on a long walk in the woods by ourselves, right. And we're going to have, and so sometimes it's the surroundings and where you are. Can play a factor into that. Now, is it a hard, fast rule that you have to have kind of this serious anti no praying together rule. I don't know. I think that I think there are places that it makes sense, and other places that it obviously does not make sense. I don't know.
So we're saying
not so much.
Just be aware of it.
Yeah.
But it's not that you can't ever. But it is, there is a bit of a risk there.
Definitely.
All right. So we're actually getting questions live here.
Okay.
Love it.
Yeah.
So questions coming on my phone. So these are not. We've not prepared for these. All right, so one really practical question, let's go ahead and knock this out. Cameron, is this going to count as one of the weeks, or will you continue the series? Well, Cameron, we'll continue the series. This does not count. This is bonus, all right?
Yes,
this is not part of the plan.
This is extra.
And next week we'll actually talk about some countercultural traits that mark a really healthy relationship that you're not going to see in the culture at all. And they're really surprising and maybe even head scratchers, but that make up for a solid relationship. And then we're going to look at a couple more things even after that. So we'll keep it going. I don't want to drop those things. Now this one, I like this one.
Okay.
Jess.
Yeah.
What did...
Wait, it's addressed to me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What did Derek do that caught your eye and proved he was a man of God?
Oh, okay. That's a good question.
What didn't I do?
What did he do?
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so, well, let me just say that first off, it was actually not Derek. It was a God thing. It was truly a moment where I just felt like, wow, this was sort of from the Lord. This was, should I tell how we met, or I mean, how far do you want me to go into this question?
Yeah,
okay. So briefly, the nutshell version, because the long version's really good too. But the nutshell version is Derek was new to the area, studying in seminary. We met briefly at a church. I kind of had this moment. So we knew names, and we had met, and then 3 months go by and we don't see each other. And then at a church downtown, Park Street Church downtown, we were both invited to a 20-something ministry that night. And Derek walked up to me afterwards and he said, "Hi, I'm Derek Grizz." And I said, "I know." And because I remembered him, and I was really excited that he wanted to talk to me. And so the girl I was with and the group he was with, we went to coffee, and we really just chat, maybe 5-minute conversation. But I remember it was very God-centered conversation. It was just about, that I was teaching, but that I had a heart for missions, and that, that I didn't know where God would lead me or take me. And really in that moment, Derek said that he went home and he knew that I was the one. And
true story.
And so it really was kind of a love at first sight kind of a moment. In a very God way, not a Nicholas Sparks kind of a way. It was a very God way. Yeah. And he really orchestrated the whole thing, because we ran into each other the very next day. He emailed me the next day and said that he loved hearing my heart. So maybe that would be the best answer to that question, is that I really felt like he heard me, and he heard my heart. But honestly, it was a God thing. And then the very next day, we were at the same event, and so 3 days in a row. I mean, it was definitely a God thing. So that's a good question.
Just not to heap on for me, but just for that whole context was, I mean, you were teaching and you were actually leading in a youth group. I was in seminary, starting to do ministry there. That was the first semester there. I was looking at different churches and started to come on board to do ministry with her. And then we met at a church. And then that second time we met, or the third time, was again at a seminary function. So the whole context was, I was seeing your heart for the Lord and for ministry. And I trust you're seeing the same thing. But so even the big context, I think, gave some. I
mean, he was cute too. So I mean, I don't want to just totally be like, oh, it was God and blah blah blah. I mean, he was really cute, and so there's definitely that side of it too, that I was just excited and just, it was such a fun and special time. And we really knew right away that we were going to get married, and so that was exciting too. So yeah.
Excellent. All right, so that was kind of impromptu. I'm getting some more here on my phone. Zach just texted me a great one. And actually, Zach, we're going to get to that in 2 weeks. So I'm not going to answer. But great question.
Bummer.
Just hang in there.
Okay, you have to wait.
All right. Man, these are really good questions, y'all. Y'all ask incredibly thoughtful questions. All right, next one is just as tough and intense here.
3?
4.
4. Okay.
Is it bad to say I love you before you're engaged or married?
Okay.
That one's got your name right beside it.
Oh, great. Okay, me again. Okay. Is it bad to say I love you before you're engaged or married? Okay, here's how I'm going to answer that.
Yeah,
yes.
how are you going to answer that?
Yes and no. So I'm really not going to give you a clear answer on this one. Let me just say that. Yes, because let's say bad is not the right word in the question. Is it bad to say I love you before you're engaged and married? I don't think it's bad. I do think this is, once again, one of those scenarios where you can become extremely emotionally attached. I don't know if attached is the right word, but extremely emotionally invested in another person to the point where your whole identity can get wrapped up in that relationship, to where they are the number one priority in your life. So if that's kind of where the I love you is coming from, it's coming from out of I love you and there's nothing else but you, and my whole identity is in that I love you. That's dangerous territory. That is a really difficult place for your heart to be. But I would say that there is a place for I love you in relationships, because it's a little obvious. Like, the reason that you would be with somebody in a relationship with somebody or like somebody is that there are some feelings there. Okay, so I would say this is definitely a question that goes under the guard your heart category, where you need to be really in tune with, what does this I love you mean? Is this the correct I love you for this person? How much in perspective of your love for God is this I love you to that person? I don't know. That's a pretty shaky gray answer. I don't know. Do you have anything else to say on that? But
obviously, the big picture is just that I love you are huge, powerful words. Mm-hmm. And so I would never say them lightly, never say them hastily. Mm-hmm. So when should you say it? Again, it's hard to do a hard, fast line. So I'm not going to put an age on it. Obviously, people, you date, and we recognize that we loved each other before we got engaged. That's why we got engaged, because we recognized that. So that's a part of the journey. But they're such powerful words, and to be so careful with them. And then also, I think the other thing is there is some confusion about what that even means. So, I think I love you is not just expressing something you feel, but it's actually stating a commitment. Mm-hmm. And so that's another piece of it is as a sophomore in high school, are you ready to make that commitment? You may have feelings of love. You may deeply care for somebody, but are you willing to make that? It's almost a vow to say, I will love you, and it becomes that. Now, I do think, obviously, students know love and have love,
and that brings up a good point, because if you say I love you to somebody and then 3 weeks go by and you have to break up with that person, what is that going to do to their mind and their heart? What are they supposed to think about that you said I love you and then all of a sudden, no, I don't even want to be with you anymore? So if you have any thought that this is probably not going to last more than 3 weeks, or I'm just giving you an example, but maybe one suggestion would be, if you don't feel like you're close enough with that person to actually have a conversation about the phrase "I love you," then it's probably not time yet. But if you feel like you can say "I love you" within the context of a clear conversation about what you appreciate about that person, what you love about that person, and it's not just this ambiguous, interpret it for yourself, "I love you," and then you just never talk about it again. So I think it should be something that's said clearly in the context of this is what I mean by that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
All right. And of course, by the way, we're offering some thoughts, some wisdom where we have it. There's a wealth of wisdom at West Park and in your parents, and always seek counsel. Well, actually, we'll get to that here in a minute. Yes. But seeking counsel is huge in discerning a lot of these things that are just, quite frankly, some of these things are just very gray, and so you need to seek wise counsel from parents, from godly leaders.
Someone you can trust to give them the scenario and say, should I tell this person this, and all of that. Somebody that can really speak into the particular situation.
Yeah. All right, number 5.
I'll read this one.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
All right. Okay, this one's for Derek.
Yep.
And it kind of ties in with what we were just talking about. So, okay, here it is. What's the deal with emotional purity or being an emotional virgin? Is it wrong to fall for someone you might not marry?
Well, I think what that question's hitting on is that the emotional piece is huge, and sometimes what we hear even in adult circles is the idea of an emotional affair, which is to say that nothing physically has happened necessarily, but there's emotional bonds. And the reason that's gotten linked up with affairs is because it's so significant. That emotional piece is huge, and that's beginning to give your heart away, even before physical stuff. So I think, what's the deal with emotional purity, emotional virgin? I think that's an important category. I think that's something worth thinking about, is reserving a little bit of your heart and your emotions, knowing that if I give all my emotions to somebody, that's not insignificant. Even if you've kept a physical line, you've never held hands, never done anything, that emotional piece can be huge. And that, looking back at my own kind of high school, college career, that's one thing I wish I'd go back is put up some more boundaries for the emotional part. Again, was there necessarily sin in that? No, but I just look back and think, wow, I wish I would have spared myself a lot of heartbreak if I had done better with guarding my emotions. And sometimes we joke about the Christian phrase, guard your heart. That's true. You should guard your heart. That's a big deal. So I think it is a big deal. So is it wrong to fall for someone you might not marry? It's not wrong in the sense that it might happen on accident. I would just say but you should be cautious about that. And there are certain things that you can do, I think, to kind of protect your heart in that way. And some of that, a lot of it is as simple as how much time you spend, how much time you're talking, how much time you're together. Those are things that you can just say, hey, I still need to kind of maintain my life. I still have things that I've got to do, and I still have responsibilities in school and sports and work. And a lot of times when the emotional wall's going down, it's just all overlapping. All those other things are disappearing too. But keeping some of those kind of just checks in place. Would you add anything to that? To kind of keep your emotions safe?
Yeah, absolutely, because I feel like it's really hard to control your emotions. So if you go at guarding your heart like, I'm just going to be strong, I'm just going to be bigger than my emotions, I think that's really hard to do, because emotions will hit you and you just didn't even expect it. You didn't ask for it. There's something called hormones and, all of that. So I think knowing that God is bigger and stronger than your emotions ever will be, and trusting Him with your emotions rather than just trying to stifle them out or control them, that you go to God when you start feeling an emotion that you feel like this is really strong and this is something that is probably not safe within the context of this relationship. You need to go to God. You need to pray about that. You need to ask Him either to remove it or to just tenderly help you walk through that. But if you, I think what, looking back on my experience, I think what happened was that these emotions came in, and then that turned into actual like thought patterns that were just not helpful. And then you start feeling like because you're so emotionally wrapped up into this relationship that your identity and who you are is so wrapped up in the relationship. In every relationship, there's the vertical piece and then there's the horizontal piece. So if your vertical piece is not, if you are not connected with God, if you're not going to Him as the one who will guard your heart, as the one who will guard your emotions, then the horizontal, I always get it mixed up, the horizontal piece is going to get completely out of whack because you are not going to God. So I think that's really what guard your heart means. It's not that you kind of are this strong crusader and you just say, I'm going to not feel anything for this person. No, I think you're going to have emotions, and I think dealing with those in a godly way is what we mean by guard your heart. So
that's good. And that, I mean, I kind of gave the guy answer.
Yeah.
Like, here, just control your emotions. You know, and you're saying, well, sometimes that's not always the case, but you can still bring that to God.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good balancing answer there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, this is kind of related. Is it okay to date a guy or girl whom you know you probably won't marry?
Okay, here's the thing. We think that sometimes dating or relationships or all that is kind of like a magic 8-ball where you just shake it and it's like yes or no, or like, like the daisies, he loves me, he loves me not, he loves me, he loves me not. Which one is it going to end on? And really, if you were to quiet your heart, and like I was saying, if that vertical piece, if that relationship with God is there and healthy and intact, and you're going to Him with your questions and with your emotions, He doesn't just leave us to figure it out. He's not just like looking down like, is she going to pick the right one? Is he going to pick the right one? I mean, our thoughts are so skewed by movies and romantic comedies, which I love. I love them just like everybody else. But that is not the truth. God cares deeply about who you are connected with. He cares deeply about who you choose to be associated with. And He does not withhold answers. I think we don't either want to listen to His answer, or we don't quiet ourselves enough to hear His answer. We want to control it. We think, well, if we could just do this, or if we could just change this, or if the stars would just align perfectly. No, I think that God cares deeply, and He's going to give you a sense of you need to be with this person and you need to not be with this person. I think if you know that it's not going to end in marriage, I think that you're on thin ice there. You are then in a relationship with somebody else's wife or somebody else's husband. And so when you start to think about it that way, it really sounds a little goofy. And there's so much value that can be found in friendships. And so whether you need to have a serious relationship with somebody that you honestly feel like this is not going to go anywhere, I think you're going to find yourself hurt. I think you're going to find yourself hurting the other person. That would be my answer.
Good. Let me just back up for a second on that. I told Jess earlier before we were hopping on here, I said, I want to be careful of how we talk about dating because dating is a big deal, and I don't want it to sound like we're either for it or judging you if you're, like we're against it and we're judging you. It's a very powerful thing. We looked at that last week, that this relationship that God has created between man and woman is a profoundly powerful match. There's a lot going on there. And so dating's a big deal, and we would point you to your parents in that regard. They know you all inside and out from the day you were born, and they love you all so much. And so I know Jess and I, we're kind of answering these questions as they're written to us. So this one is...
It did have date in it.
Yeah, so it had dating in it. So I just want to say that we don't think, goodness, everybody should be dating right now. We're just answering this question as it comes to us. But that's where you need to hear from your parents. Where are they at on that? You need to respect that and their wisdom for you. I mean, the promise that God gives is that to those who obey their parents, He says it'll be blessing, right? That's the first, yeah, that it may go well with you. It's the first commandment with a blessing. So I just want to make sure I put that in there, that we're going to answer these questions as they come to us, but we recognize that there's people all up and down the line, different opinions on those things, but certainly it's a very powerful thing to begin these significant relationships, and so we would direct you back to your parents and their wisdom for you, how they know you and your heart. So, all right. So how come there seems to be so much pressure to date in high school and college? What's the rush? And let me tell you, there is no rush at all. I mentioned that somebody texted me about a verse in Corinthians where Paul mentions commending singleness, that you might not be distracted, and we're going to look at that in a couple weeks. But the idea is that, goodness, there's a lot to be done, and even our perspective here on earth is that things are temporary. Paul says, treat all these things somewhat lightly. Even marriage is temporary. So the idea that, wow, like, you just need to date right now and find somebody. Whoa, slow down. That's not the perspective that Paul takes, and I would commend that to you as well. Don't rush. There's not a rush. I think sometimes we feel that in our context to get married sooner, and we see that more in church circles. But trusting the Lord's got the right person for you, trusting at the right time, that'll come along. Jess and I talk about the image of, it's not that you need to be spending your time looking all around. The image that we have talked about is that, run your race that's set before you right now. Your first and highest call is your relationship to the Lord. Run that race right now. And then what's cool is, as you run that race, what so often happens is you look over and you notice somebody else is running with you. And at that point, you realize, I may have a partner here, because we're both pursuing the Lord. We're both, do all this stuff. So this is a great time right now to run your race. And lo and behold, one day you will look over and you see somebody running right alongside you, heading down the same path, heading in the same direction, same passions. And you say, wow, this may be something the Lord's provided for me. And so I would just encourage you in that way to run your race. There's no hurry. And that's one thing, honestly, people ask me, what would you say to yourself if you went back to your high school self? I would love to just grab my high school self on the shoulders and say, lighten up, have some fun. Like, you're so worried about all these relationships and who you're going to the dance with and who all these things. And I look back and go, oh, how silly, what a waste of time. So this is just Derek telling you that I would just say, chill out, like, at the right time. And when I met Jess, man, I didn't orchestrate that at all. At the right time, the Lord brought Jess along. And all my efforts through high school and college didn't really mount up to much at all. Nothing, actually. And then at the right time, the Lord brought Jess. So I would just say, yeah, run your race. To just chill. Enjoy this time right now. Enjoy being single. So, do you have anything to that?
Yeah, I would say if you're feeling pressure to date, then you need to stop and think, where is this pressure coming from? Is this pressure coming from yourself? Is this pressure coming from looking at other couples and thinking, what's my problem? But really, it's false. If you feel like a relationship with somebody and a dating relationship with somebody is going to complete you, is going to fill a hole in you, is going to fix this loneliness that you have, is whatever it is, whatever you're looking for that person to add to your life, that's just false. It's not going to happen. There is no perfect husband. There is no perfect wife. There is no perfect guy. There is no perfect girl. We are just all sinful and messed up. And so if you are just looking for somebody to fill a need in your life, it's just not going to happen. Only God can fill that in our lives. Only God can be that for us. So I think sometimes we need to just slow down and say, okay, hold on. Where's this pressure coming from? And bottom line, our culture fears loneliness. We are afraid to be alone. We feel like if we are alone, we're the outcast. we feel like we have no value or worth when we're alone, and so we just look around for the nearest person, we grab them, and we say, hey, let's not be alone. Well, guess what? You're still going to be desperately lonely. And honestly, some of the loneliest times in my life have been times where God has stepped in and been huge for me. Where I didn't have anybody else to run to. I didn't have parents to support me. I was totally alone, and I only had God to get me through. And I grew as a believer, and I grew in faith because I had to rely on Him and trust in Him. And I really think that that has made me a better wife, because I know that I can't look to Derek to fix me, and I can't look to, he supports me, he loves me, he prays for me. There's so much that Derek does for me, but at the end of the day, he is not my God, and my God is the only one who can complete fill that hole in my heart. So don't feel bad if you look around and you feel like I'm alone. That does not make you an outcast. That does not make you a loser. That gives you an awesome time in your life for you to go hard after God and to let Him do awesome things for you and in you. So,
excellent. Yeah, very good. All right, we just have a couple more left, and it's already a couple minutes after 10 here, so we'll wrap up. I got one here. I think I'm reading it right here. In a marriage relationship, what's the main component in sustaining it apart from the Lord? I think I'm reading that right, saying, and you know, obviously the Lord, but what else in sustaining? Off the top of my head, I would be curious if you say this, but I think the biggest thing that I've found for us is just communication. So aside from the Lord, obviously, and that relationship, and of course that. Have a whole talk just on that. That, like you said, I'm not your God. You don't fix me. I don't fix you. It's this vertical piece is so huge. But again, so that aside, though, the horizontal piece is communication. I think that sharing of hearts and minds through words is huge. I feel like the times we've had issues, or maybe where we were missing each other, or the communication wasn't good, and then even when times have been really rough, when we're really talking and communicating, that seems to be what keeps it going, you know. I mean, you know, going through trials together, suffering together, and just being able to talk about it. So I don't know. What would you say?
No, I totally agree with that, and I think that's a really good answer, because there's so much that falls under communication. You can't have communication if you're not being honest. You can't have communication if you're not being vulnerable with one another. You can't have communication if you're always attacking the person or nitpicking, you know, like communication is just this open two-way street that has to constantly be traveled, constantly be open.
Never done.
Never done. There's no secrets. There's no there's just, it's always open. It's not like, oh, hey, you're home, now we can talk. Like, there's just this constant open flowing of ideas, feelings, emotions. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes that means I don't want to talk to you right now, but I'm going to, because I'm committed to being open and honest, even in my hurt, even in my frustration, even in you know, the hard things that we're working on and going through. So that's a major commitment. So yeah, great question. That's good.
Definitely. Okay, I think there's 2 left. I'm not seeing any more. You squeeze one in, text me. But all right, here's what I got. So how do you know you found the one? How do you know? I'm gonna get the ball started.
Okay,
get the ball rolling here. I think 3 things. It's similar, I think, to, you know, identifying a call or maybe making any decision in life. I think there is the heart piece, right? And I think that's what maybe this question's getting at is, you know, what's that little heart piece where you just know you know that you know. Well, I do think there's a piece of that. There should be a in your heart. There should be a peace, P-E-A-C-E, peace in your heart that you do know. Now, is this some profound, mystical, magical thing? No, but there is a little bit of a heart. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know why want to marry someone where you're like, I got to check in my spirit. I'm just gonna gut it out. No, I mean there's this heart piece, so that you know. And again, sometimes it's dramatic. Like, I really felt like I knew with you, but I don't think that's. I mean, like the first night, I think that's pretty rare.
We're special.
Yeah. Yeah. We are, but yeah. So, but there is a heart piece. I do, but it's not always, night one or whatever. But there should be a heart piece. And then I think there's a head part of this. Does it make sense? Tim Keller said that. I think he's quoting Stanley Hauerwas, but anyways, he said that you always marry the wrong person, which is true. Yeah. But then he points out that and his point with that is you always marry the wrong person because you change so much, and they're sinful, and it's a mess. So there's a sense in which nobody's perfect. It's always a wrong person. But there are more wrong people. You married somebody and you didn't speak the same language. That might be an issue. Those kind of things. So there is this kind of mental piece where, okay, are they walking with the Lord? Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about that in another week. This idea of equally yoked. I mean, Paul's not talking about egg yolks. We'll talk about that. But that's an important piece. Is are things lining up? So there's this kind of mental checklist that I think you have. So a heart piece that you kind of know. I think head piece, like that you, the things make sense, they're lining up. And then I think the final part is the community part, which would be your family, your friends. Again, this one always just blows my mind when somebody wants to date somebody that their parents don't like. And I'm like, how does that end? I mean, I'm just going to be honest. I don't want to offend anybody, but at this point in my life, at my age, I'm looking at it, they're going, how do you think this will end? If your parents don't like them, I mean, who walks you, down the aisle, or who's gonna be the grandparents? I mean, so how are they not gonna like them? And your parents really know you quite well. And so I remember my parents one time meeting a girl in college and saying, she's different.
Hopefully she's not watching right now.
Right. But and I remember at the time thinking, what do y'all know? Yeah. And then looking back and being like, absolutely, they knew all along. So anyway, so that family piece, and again, your friends have a part of that too. Like sometimes your friends will call you on it and say, I'm just not seeing it. I think you need to hear that. So to me, how do you know you found the one? I think when those things are lining up, and again, I'm putting the biblical piece under the mental part. You've got that. You're thinking through it. Does this person line up? But the hard part says, yeah, this feels right. There's this spirit level piece. There's the head, and then the people who know you, love you, are saying, yeah, we're excited for you. So I think those are proper guards that the Lord's provided for us. And again, really in any decision. But anything you add to that list?
Can I get my notes?
Yeah, get your notes.
Sorry, just one second.
This is awkward. I didn't know she was going to leave.
I meant to have these right here in case they came up. Okay, so I'm going to do this real quick, but girls, here's the deal. Girls, we have really good imaginations. We're dreamers, and we can kind of get caught up. We're emotional, and I mean that like in the best sense of the word. It's good that we're emotional. But what happens is when we're trying to find the one, is our brain and our dreams and our thoughts just start getting going, where you start picturing all these things down the road. And what we can do is we can actually, in our minds, just think, we just think, oh, well, he's close. He's almost there. You think, if we could just tweak this, or if I could just help him see this, or you feel like you can kind of fix the person. You just tweak them a little bit closer to be the one. And the problem with that is it probably isn't going to happen. And so I just kind of jotted down a list, and this actually comes from the book of Ruth. And so it's somewhat biblical. I mean, it's not like, here's what you should look for in a guy, but it does come from an awesome story in the Bible where Ruth and Boaz fall in love. And this is what if you look at it, this is what we see in his character. We see him overwhelmingly, the first thing that you notice about him is his relationship with the Lord. First thing out of his mouth is a greeting in the Lord to his servants. We also see that he notices you. He notices you first. So this whole idea of him first pursuing you as the girl. He protects you. He cares about you. He's not gonna like throw you under the bus with this joke so that everybody laughs. He actually is going to guard your heart and your mind and you physically as well. He sees you. He sees God in you. He sees God's plan in you. He sees how God uses you and has created you and designed you, and he celebrates that. He initiates, he asks you out. That's a little overlap there. He provides for you, so he sees your needs and he goes out of his way to meet those needs. And then we see him as having a character committed to justice, what is very right, and integrity. Basically, we see him as a man that has earned his way, that people respect. We see him doing good things. We see fruit in his life. If you want to use that word. And so I think girls, if you really want to know, is he the one? And they're just, you don't see those things in this guy. I'm sorry, but those things are not going to just all of a sudden pop up as soon as he puts a ring on your finger. And so, like I said, this is kind of what I said before, is God cares deeply about whether he's the one, and he's going to speak to you in very clear ways if you listen to what God has to say for you. So anyway, that was just like a mini sermon.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You got all your points.
Okay.
That's good. No, that's good. And again, appreciate the lady's perspective.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. I think we do get carried away.
Mine's very logical and
you meet a guy, like you've never even talked to him, and you're already picturing, could I walk down the aisle with that?
Right.
Don't do that.
Good. That's very good. All right, just a couple left. I got one more little text, just kind of asking a little bit more about the dating courting thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have, sorry to upset, but I don't have a ton more to add on the dating courting thing, again, because I'm most familiar from Joshua Harris's book, and then kind of asking for a preference, whether courting is something for younger couples. And again, I think it depends largely on what your parents' advice would be for that. Again, I'm a little hesitant to say something one way or the other because each person is so unique and each family is unique. And then even what we mean by the terms may be a little out there. So I'm so sorry to, I know that may be disappointing, but...
What was the follow-up question?
Just a word of, just a little bit more direction on do you think for younger couples that dating is the best way to go? So
versus courting.
So
well, yeah, and like I think we said this is just dating is such a hard word because everybody interprets that differently. Dating can literally mean like, yeah, I'm interested in this person, but we're going out in groups. But it could mean that you're just hanging out together. So I don't know. It's really complicated. You have to give us kind of a more specific scenario than that.
Yeah, sorry to. Like I said, we're kind of hesitant to go all the way in on any of those because there's so many factors. Yeah, we'll be happy to talk.
Detailed answer
in person about that. Just real quickly, I'm getting a couple more emails here as we're sitting here. Is it normal to feel discouraged about being single at such a young age? And I would say no, I don't think it is. I think because we are created for relationship, we do.
It is normal or it's not normal?
Is it normal to feel discouraged, And so I'm saying, I'm not sure how to say it the first time, but I'm saying it is normal to feel discouraged. Okay. Sorry. It is normal to feel discouraged about that. So I'm saying, hey, don't be discouraged, chill out, but it's totally understandable if you're feeling that pressure. And you may feel very alone at school, and that's hard, and you don't quite have that group of friends. So yeah, don't be discouraged about being discouraged. Okay, it's very normal. So even as we're saying, hey, relax, whatever, we don't mean that to be heaped on you. As now you need to feel bad because you're not relaxed. Again, that was me for for 8 years.
Hey,
is
all
worried
these
about
like
that.
great love songs that we love to
Yeah.
listen to, it's like the angst and yeah. I mean, so yeah, I mean, it's very normal to feel lost in that. I think my earlier comments just were an encouragement to not look to something else to fix that loneliness. We can look to a person, we can look to food, we could look to a Netflix binge, we could look to a lot of different things to fill that loneliness instead of going to God first. And just because we pray about it doesn't mean it's going to be gone and all of a sudden we're not lonely. It just means that is a primo time for you to really lean into what God has for you in that season, if that makes any sense.
All right, last question.
Okay.
All right, thanks for hanging with us. We've had a good little crew. We can kind of
Yeah.
see who's watching, just not who you are, but just how many people are watching. And we had a good little crew with us, 25, 20, 30 people. So thank you for joining us. Really cool. Kind of, like I said, just kind of fun
30
to...
people in our living room right now.
Yeah. And we have a small living room.
Yeah.
So
You would be sitting
delightful.
on the floor.
All right, so this last question is very thoughtful. How committed should you be in a relationship? So in parentheses, committed enough so that you try to make up at any disagreement, or when you have a low commitment breakup, is it a relationship after all? So basically the tension of, okay, so some of these relationships right now are obviously transient and come and go. So, what is the commitment level? And I think this is tricky. This is a tricky question because relationships, guess what? They work best in the context of commitment. That's where they flourish. And so this is exactly the conundrum with kind of teenage relationships, is that you're trying out something that works best when there's a commitment. So this is a tricky question. So I didn't answer the question yet. Maybe I'll just throw Jess the ball now. That's just framing it. It's just it's a difficult question.
Okay, so you set me up, and I'm going to spike it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, okay, here we go. How committed should you be in a relationship? Gut first initial answer is, and I'm assuming that you're in high school, right?
Yeah, or probably, or middle school.
I'm assuming that you're
high school.
a young adult, and that you're not, should I assume that you're not, like, going to get married? Like, can I interpret the question that way?
Yeah, I would take it as, like, hey, this is maybe a typical upperclassman relationship that's semi-serious.
Okay.
How committed. That's how.
Okay, so I'm going to answer
that makes it the most hard.
Yes, I'm going to answer it within that context. How committed should you be? I'm going to say not very. In that, if you find yourself disagreeing over and over and over again, and it's like, oh, we broke up, oh, we're back together, oh, we broke up, oh, we get back together, and your friends can't even keep up with, what the state of the relationship is, that doesn't look like a good, healthy relationship. And so I think if, like we were kind of talking about that emotional piece, I think as soon as you add the commitment, you're also adding in that emotional layer. And so if you're in a relationship that is just so unstable, and I'm kind of reading into this question a little bit, I think that's where, honestly, and Derek had said that, if I could look back on my younger self, it would be similar. It would be, enjoy the people that you're with. Enjoy the time of life that you have. Enjoy the freedom that comes with, I know some of you think that you're not free because you have parents and rules and curfews and you got to be at school. But, relatively speaking, you have a lot of freedom from responsibilities that are going to be very heavy in the future. And I'm not saying that's like, throw caution to the wind and go party or anything like that. I just mean enjoy this time in your life. Enjoy the relationships that come up. Enjoy the people that God puts in your path. Enjoy the people that are like you. Enjoy the people that are different than you. Get to know people. Ask them questions. Get to know people who are different than you, because that whole process of getting to know people and learning what works and what personalities work for your personality, all of that is just is almost research for the future, for your future relationships. So if you can go at that with integrity, but also sort of a low commitment level as far as emotional sense, but a huge, just love for people in general, as people who are made in the image of God, people who have been brought into your life for a reason, I think you're really going to find that you grow from that. I think you're going to come out of that with an excitement that you had just a really good experience at that time in your life. And then here's the other thing. If you were just always kind of pairing off with someone and cutting out everybody else in your life and you're just with that person all the time, you're just missing out on other relationships and people in your life that could really speak into your life and grow you and just help you be better, I guess. You'll look back on that time with more joy and maybe even possibly be more free in the future relationships.
And now let me add just one little thing. And we're going to have to hop off, guys. I'm sorry. I'm still getting a couple more questions. May have to answer those in person. But thank you all for submitting these great questions. The only final thing I'd add to that, that's great caution there. And I think there is one thing you can commit to, though, right now. I think you can commit to basic, just kind of Christian love of somebody. So we're supposed to owe each other only the debt of love, right? We're all supposed to love each other in a biblical sense there, that care for one another, share with one another, share burdens, share blessings. So I think, so I'm agreeing with you and adding to it that you can still be committed to the person.
Yes. Being a good friend.
Yes,
being
exactly.
Somebody who's loyal. Being somebody who's going to be honest and.
But like the romance. So if we could take that relationship and slice it down there, and so what I would say what you're saying. So for the romance part, like hold that lightly. But you can still say, hey, I'm committed to their best interests. I'm committed to them knowing the Lord. I'm committed to them, walking out their sanctification and spiritual life. And that actually might cause you to break up because of that commitment. So I do think there are things you can still stay committed to without being committed to the, kind of romantic relationship. So again, I'm agreeing with you, just adding
I think that
little piece to it.
That's really good.
So all right, so we're way over. We gotta wrap up here.
Okay.
But thanks for joining in. I had fun. Hope you guys had fun. And it's snowing. Yeah. So what a great way to hang out on a snowy night when you can't get out. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for texting and emailing and all that stuff. So I really appreciate it. Again, sorry if we didn't get to one of your questions. Be happy to talk in person. And of course, we're going to finish, pick back up with our series next Wednesday, looking at Ephesians 5 and looking into that. And so.
And Ignite is going to be awesome.
Ignite's going to be awesome. So talking about Multiply, partnering with the Global Impact Conference. So we're really excited about that. There's some great missionaries we'll be hearing from. And anyways, it's going to be awesome. So thank you all. We're going to sign off. And we will see you all Sunday. Have fun tomorrow. Be safe. Enjoy the snow. And, yeah. Peace.